stuff. So yeah, tell us what you've been up to since the Harbour Club.
Well, so I did Harbour Club as part of my continuing education around deal making. So I'd done a number of deals already, but by way of background, I started off that typical small business owner that didn't think more broadly for about 10 years. So I set up a domiciliary care company with my wife about 13 years ago, and for the first 10 years, just bashed my head against being, the small business organic growth, and it was okay. Got to a couple of million of turnover, and it was a very comfortable little business. But I had a bit of a light bulb moment when I had the opportunity to buy a friend's company, smaller dom care company, back in September 2018, and almost instinctively struck a deal whereby I paid some up front and then the rest paid out over time. And it was just like one of those aha moments, because what we found was I could bolt it in really easily because I had a good platform business.
Yeah.
So I then went on a bit of a rampage and bought several more, and then thought, I better educate myself. So I went and did a course, one of your former students,
right.
and then did Harbour Club back in I think it was May last year, so about 10 months ago now.
Okay. Right.
And we basically just continued in the sector doing a roll up. So I've last Monday completed our 14th acquisition.
Right.
And a lot of them are very small. They're just bolting into an existing location, and we immediately get a margin improvement because we can take out some overhead, and we're also getting a multiple arbitrage. I'm buying these smaller mum and pop type operators for between 2.5 and 3.5 EBITDA, and just by bolting them into the group, they're already sort of multiplying up to about 6. So. And I've got a plan. So we're now with that deal last Monday takes us to about 16 million of turnover, and I'm signing another one today, about another 3 million of turnover today. And then we want to get to 30 million of turnover by the end of our financial year in January next year. So
fantastic.
And I've got a pipeline of targets.
What does that net down to? Like 10, 15%?
About 15% EBITDA. We're running a bit heavy at the moment because of the investment I've done in the management team and the head office and so on, ready for this next phase of growth. So we're just shy of 15, but once it normalizes with some volume, it's up to about 15% EBITDA. So
And what's the end game? Private equity, public offering?
Private equity. I think I've get it to about 40 million, and then look for an exit from myself, either a management buyout funded by some private equity. Leave some on the table because I think this has got a lot of legs to go. There's 10,000 domiciliary care companies in the UK, but 65% of them have less than 60 clients, which is 500,000-ish. So the roll-up potential is just huge. So I want to get it to a certain stage and then leave it for somebody else to take further with some on the table. So
that makes a ton of sense. And have you got kind of a cookie cutter deal structure, or do you approach everyone differently? Or
there are a lot of retirees, so you've got to balance how much they want to take up front, but most of them I'm able to negotiate a mix of upfront and deferred, usually 30 to 40% of deferred upfront, and the rest deferred over 2 to 3 years. Up until now, we've funded it all organically through our own cash flow, and that's worked fine. But I'm now being presented with bigger opportunities, the 6, 7, 8 million turnover multi-branch companies. So that's going to need some external finance, and that's been my job for the last month or so, is going around talking to finance houses, looking for some debt finance. I don't want to give away equity too early.
Well, they've just increased the C-bills limit now to 10 million, and that will be a qualifying use of proceeds. So I would start there because it's non-personally guaranteed. And then obviously the I don't know if you've come across Paul from Mercurio Capital. He's used by quite a few of the Harbour Clubbers use him. His email address is just pe@mercuriocapital.co.uk, and he's got about 30 different lines of credit that you can access without using PGs. So all sorts of kind of creative ways that you can find finance on a balance sheet. So he's quite good with those kind of things.
I'll touch base.
How often is the end client that you're invoicing actually the government? And how often is it private?
85%. So yeah, it's factorable. I just find that's expensive debt for what it is. So
it is, yeah. I mean, there's confidential invoice discounting as well, which is the kind of corporate version of factoring, where you don't hand over the invoice to the factoring company to collect, and you normally get a better, lower
rate.
percentage. And then also, I mean, if there's, like a particular, I don't know if it's an NHS trust you would invoice or whether it's a local council.
Both.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, if there's any of those that get meaty, you can also look at like spot finance on specific clients. So rather than factoring the whole book, you can just draw some down a bit early, and that can sometimes, meet the peaks and troughs when you do an acquisition to start with. That first bite, is then dealt with. The other thing is a bond issue, and doing the kind of extra bond type of structure, which we found very effective in what we're doing.
I've spoken with a fellow Harbour Club, a guy called Michael Ferguson, who does that sort of finance raising for a living, including he's done it in our sector in the UK. For a lot of these Dan Pena types, they turn up with a grey-haired board when they want to raise a huge amount of money. They've got no track record, and they get it. It's just very expensive debt.
Really sharp suit.
But we're just, it's very busy. I've got about 42 prospects I'm talking to. There's no shortage of opportunities. It's just finding the right deals, the right locations. So
awesome. And what do you do for outreach? You're just writing letters or LinkedIn or
letters, LinkedIn. I mean, we're now we've done a couple through some sector-specific brokerage firms like Redwood, Dowling Kerr. They focus on our sector, so they bring us opportunities. In fact, the one that we just closed last Monday, it was 12 days from first conversation to closing because it was the regulator was basically shutting them down for quality, and we can fix the quality. And it was through a broker. They had a sale and the other buyer pulled out, and basically they knew I'm able to move quickly. So they came to us, we did the deal, like effectively 1.5 times, multiple, and only 50k up front.
Is there a way to reverse search for people that are at risk on the care quality commission? You can. Okay.
But you've got to be careful, because if they're really shit, you don't want them. This was more occasionally. So this was a rare one where it's good size, but the care quality was good, but the management was crap, and it was run by a very old guy, 84 years old himself. Right. So he was just not moving with the times. Everything was paper-based. We can just go bish bash bosh, tap in, tap out, RFID tags, electronic medication records, all that sort of stuff. So we fix the problem, but the quality of the carers, if we've had some of those in the past, they're much harder to fix. So anyway.
Yeah, interesting. So I mean, I know in MDH, for example, we have Logistica, which specialises in like health and social care, management or health and social care training programs, and I think Acacia does a lot of that stuff as well. I don't know if you're familiar with those guys or whether
I've seen them, not spoken to them. And again, there's another Harbour Club, a guy called Simon Crowther, who does a care consultancy business. So we're using him to audit, pre-regulator auditing on all of our operations. But increasingly, I've brought in a good MD, finance director, HR director. So that sort of stuff I leave to them. I just link them up because I'm really now just focused on the M&A stuff. So
the key is if you're going to sell to private equity, you don't want your hands to touch anything operational at all. If you can avoid signing any checks, that's always good.
Well, I've actually moved out, so I have my own little chairman's office now, and I basically only go down that office once a month for formal board meetings. That's the easiest way to try and make that separation.
Yeah, good plan. Yeah.
I'm also trying to link up with Susanna Hancock, who I want to take some lessons from her, because I think if I've got the flow and the process around the DomCare, there's a natural limit to absorbability. And so I want to start broadening my horizons to other opportunities, and maybe not necessarily another a big roll up, more tactical M&A activity where, be a little bit more sector agnostic. I think I've earned that title. A lot of people try and assume it without the deal experience, but I want to have that conversation with her about, the more tactical buy, hold, flip, fix and flip. Because I think, I personally will have bandwidth and some ability to do that going forward. So
yeah, we'll create some little mini capital events along the way.
Yeah.
So I mean, in terms of, it sounds like you came to the Harbour Club fully grown, as it were. But I mean, in terms of any big takeaways or any lessons that you kind of took from it that you went and implemented?
The biggest one is the community. Just the support that you've built amongst fellow Harbour Clubbers, where if you just don't know something or you just want to get some advice, you just go on the app, and I just would rate that worth every penny that you charge for the upfront course. I'm desperate to go on one of your Harbour Clubs when you resume face to face. I'd love to get.
I'm looking forward to that. We've got at the moment it's codenamed Deal Fest, and so because we've got about 300 people on back order, or whatever you want to call it, who want to come. Yeah. So it's not going to be like a Harbour Club it's going to be a fucking huge event.
Which is what a great opportunity for networking in any case.
Yeah. What we thought, what we're going to do is, instead of just rerunning the training course over 3 days, we're actually going to do the entire 3 days as case studies. So we'll do case studies of all the different sections. So loads of different sourcing case studies, and best practice, then loads of meeting and rapport stuff, and take everyone through the whole process, but all through, real case studies, real exits, real, deals, because I think that'll just be interesting for people. Then we're going to bolt on a black tie event. So we have a bit of fun one evening, and we're going to bolt on an open day for non-Harbour Clubbers, but people who are in our sphere of influence that we could potentially do deals with. So maybe 300 of us, we let maybe a couple of hundred of them in and do a big networking kind of drinks type.
Where you planning on that to being held?
Somewhere really fucking big, by the sounds of it. No,
I meant country-wise. Am I flying to Florida, for example?
I think London would probably be the first one, because that's the lion's share of the database, and then we'd probably do Miami, and we might do Dubai, because Dubai works for people in London and people in Asia and people in Australia. They can all get here directly. And here we've got the facilities as well. The conferencing setup in Dubai is extremely good. Quality of hotels is extremely good. I think that would work quite well. I think quite a few people would quite like the escape to come.
I'll tell you the other thing I found compared to the other course I did, Jeremy, is the quality of the people. They're more action takers. There's a lot of people on those other courses that are kind of would like to buy a business. Firstly, there is an argument to be said that it's very hard to be a deal maker if you've never actually run a company before, either built it from the base or been a senior manager. And you get lots of people who they just want to buy a business for £1, and that's a very superficial motivation, and then they don't take action. Whereas just about every Harbour Clubber I've come across is doing it. They're actually pulling the trigger as much as they can. So that's a much bigger motivating peer group to be working amongst.
Yeah, we've always been really careful with our marketing. So when we're doing our marketing, we only target the people that we want to target. Whereas I think a lot of our competitors go for lowest hanging fruit, which is the get rich quick crowd and the seminar junkies. So we don't mail any seminar junkie mailing lists at all. We don't do any advertising into those communities. All of our stuff is targeted at like business owners and entrepreneurs, and plus we don't discount. So most of the other guys do the £299 and then we upsell you the real thing, or £800, then we upsell you the real thing. We just go, no, fuck off, it's £6,000.
No, and that's a gateway. That's a filter. So
it is because it's tiring. I mean, I haven't got time to fuck around trying to upsell people. I'm busy making real money. So it's not like that,
and that's the other difference. Even the other chap, he's selling. I got a lot out of his course. Don't get me wrong. With all these courses, you take the good and you discard the crap. So I thought it was a great educational course for me where I was in my journey. But the people that are making their money on the courses and doing a little bit of deal making on the side, whereas obviously and clearly, from the depth of content that you bring to the table, this is a nice sideline and part of your giving back to the world motivation. So there's still a lot of stuff I need to explore. The wealth management stuff I haven't really got into yet, and obviously I haven't done a big exit yet, so I need to and I'd like to do some little exits. That's why the conversation about being a little bit more tactical and maybe out of the sector, doing some buy, fix and flip. So there's still a lot for me to learn inside the Harbour Club. So I'm dead chuffed that there's this community to learn from, and I'll be with you on Deal Fest. I'll be there.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's going to be fun. No, the wealth stuff is fascinating when you get into it, and hopefully we'll be joining. Yeah, hopefully you'll be joining in on that soon, because that's just a whole new education. I mean, shit. I'm trying to think when I got my private wealth account now. It's probably 7 years ago or 8 years ago, something like that. And I'm still learning shit every day on that. I mean, it's just, it's a vast topic in its own right. So fascinating.
So when I'm talking about raising finance, I've obviously been looking at debt, but people like the British Growth Fund, minority private equity houses are very keen to talk to us as well. And if I could exit 20% of the business and take a small payday now, but that would still be a couple of mil. That might be part of that education and growth. So I'm still looking at the options on the financing piece. So.
Yeah, look, my view on exits, that they're always, sooner is always better, because it really is the game changer in the entrepreneurial journey. Because I mean, entrepreneurs, we're really good at deferring, the deferred gratification thing, but sometimes we end up wasting our lives deferring it, and we don't get to enjoy all the wonderful things that life has to offer. And I would say that's probably one of my regrets from, and it wasn't really a regret because I didn't know it then. It's a lesson that I've learned. But if I was advising my younger self, it would have been to take the capital event sooner when I was younger, rather than clinging on.
I think you're right.
Yeah, and basically have had, I've had a fantastic lifestyle. I've always been lifestyle orientated, so I've tended to overtreat myself in that respect, but I could have done a lot more.
So. I think you're right, and there is most business people don't even think about getting out of their business until retirement age, and that's one of the other big learnings is, whatever they're doing here, but if I can do something on this alongside and get a more of a flow of capital events, then that makes this one just a thing that's ticking over in the background for payday down the pack. But I hear what you say about living your life. I'm starting my pilot's license on 12th of April. So.
Fantastic. Well, good luck with that. Yeah, so I actually started mine about 20 years ago or so, and did all of the theory stuff, the effects of the controls, and all that stuff. I did my first few lessons, and then actually the flying school went bust. And I could have bought it from administration, and I was tempted to, but then I was thinking maybe this is like a message from the universe, maybe I'm meant to sit in the back.
Yeah. Okay, so anything else you wanted to sort of cover off? Because I mean,
no, I thought I like I say, Wayne normally picks on people that have been doing deals and doing stuff, just to see if there's anything noteworthy we should be sharing with the community in terms of advice or in terms of ideas or stuff like that. So and look, we'll get you in the gold inner circle, because I don't think we've put you into that group.
What is that? I've never really.
It's just a group within the app. And a badge on your name. It just makes you more attractive for joint ventures. Okay. So, you mentioned about doing deals outside of your sector. What you'll find is when you're a Gold Inner Circle member, you'll get approached by all the newbies who found a deal and looking for someone to partner up with. So you'll end up doing loads of JVs, basically.
And that's a great. I mean, there are some people in the app that basically are specialising as lead generators, aren't they?
Yeah.
And you see them
specializing in closing. I mean, look, Paul Seabridge, I think he did something like 18 deals last year. I think he only originated about 2 or 3 of them.
Really?
And all the rest were ones that people bought to him because they knew he could close a deal. And I mean, Susanna's done, a good couple of joint venture deals as well with people. So, and of course, they both have that advantage of being in the Gold Inner Circle to attract people. The other thing you can do if you fancy it is when we do the new intakes of people, we do the 12-week accountability calls.
Yeah, Adrian did that for us. So yeah, I'd be more than happy to mentor a group.
If you do one of those, I mean, what tends to happen is you end up JVing with at least 1 or 2 of the people in that group, and if you don't, then at least it perpetuates into other people. People recommend you.
Yeah.
And, say, if you've got this type of company, speak to this guy. And also, I mean, domiciliary care. Everybody's got an elderly relative or a friend or whatever, and you might find there's lead generation that comes from that direction as well.
Sure.
So that can work well. But yeah, no, the good thing about the community is, if you position yourself as a bit of a go-to person in the community and somebody that's successful and doing deals, you naturally attract more deals.
Yeah.
So so we'll invite you into that little group.
Thank you.
Plus that little group also, we occasionally have things that are just for us. We did a big like goal setting workshop thing at the beginning of the year. We sometimes have guest speakers talking about particular topics. So we had somebody talking about using private placement life assurance for asset protection and things like that. They've got a divorce-proof package, which is interesting to some people. But yeah, lots of other little things that we sometimes do just for the goals.
Brilliant.
So see how it goes.
Thank you very much. So if that's enough for you, then I'm more than happy. Anything you want to, always happy to talk to people. I'm a sales guy by background. So if you think that gold in a circle thing allows me to talk to people, and you're right, newbies may not have deal closure confidence, I can help some of them through, no problems at all.
And split the upside. So perfect.
Cool. Right,
awesome.
I've got a deal to sign. So thank you very much.
Well, I've got some kids to take to the pool, so I will.
How old are yours, just out of interest? How old are they?
6 and 4.
Oh, youngsters still. Oh my God.
Yeah. So they are terrorizing the fucking house. And Friday's like Sunday in Dubai, so there's no school. Yeah. So you have them. So I keep my diary pretty light on Fridays because otherwise it's a bit crazy.
How long are you stuck in Dubai for?
Well, we just bought a place in the marina because if we go back to Singapore, we have to do 2 weeks in a hotel room before we're allowed to go back to our own house. So we've now got 4 houses that we live in permanently.
And in a plane the whole time between the 4.
Yeah. So although my plane's just gone in for its 120-month service, which is the huge one where they have to take everything out of the plane and put it all back in again. And so that's pretty much from now until probably the end of April. So it's about 6 weeks servicing or something. So not that you can really fly many places at the moment, but we are going to. It's the kids' Easter holiday soon, so we will go away for that. But the plane's on a thing called an AOC. I don't know how much you know about aviation, but anyway, the plane's on an AOC, so we can borrow another plane from the AOC.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And we just give them back the hours later. So
it's like a shared ownership scheme.
No, it's kind of so you have to have it on this AOC because it's like the operating license. So they look after all of the regulatory crap that goes on.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's normally like a cooperative of several owners. So everybody puts their planes in under the same AOC. Yeah. And then of course and they also handle charter business for you as well. So if you have a charter inquiry, they deal with it all and do all the repositioning and make sure everything's working properly. And then when you have AOG, aircraft on ground, you can normally pick up one of their other customers' planes and use that, and you just have to throw some hours back that they can
quid pro quo.
Use your plane in the future. So
lovely.
It works quite well. It's kind of like communism, but for rich people. We all share toys.
Thanks for your time.
All right, ciao.
Cheers. Bye.